This has been months in the making. In this video on Bryer's Music Showcase, I'll be ranking the 9 studio albums of none other than Kate Bush. Welcome to Bryer's Music Showcase. I am Bryer Cisneros and welcome to another video. And in this video, I'm doing something I've been wanting to do for a while now. But the reason why it's taken this long is because of 1, time, and 2, I really wanted to take my time and do something a bit special for this one, because this is my favorite female vocalist of all time, and that of course is Kate Bush. And I've been obsessing of Kate's music for about a year now, and I really wanted to make this video to kind of pay my own tribute to her, because I just absolutely love her. I love her music, I love her voice, I love everything about her. So in this video, I'm only going to be ranking her 9 studio albums. There is one I am not going to be ranking, and that is Director's Cut, which I'll put an image somewhere here. And what that is basically an album where she's just re-recording some of her songs from The Red Shoes and The Sensual World, which some people would put in the ranking. I'm personally not going to do it because I'm only going to count albums with all new original material. So that leaves us with just 9. So before I get into the ranking, for those who don't know who Kate Bush is, here is a very brief history on Kate Bush. So here you go. Catherine Bush was born in Bexleyheath, Kent, England on July 30th, 1958. From a young age, she had a keen love for both dancing and music, and at around the age of 14, she began to write her own songs. Some of these songs would fall into the ears of Ricky Hopper, who was a family friend, but was also good friends with none other than Pink Floyd guitarist David Gilmour. After hearing Kate's demos, David helped Kate land a record deal with EMI, and by 1978 she would release her debut album The Kick Inside, in which she was just 19 at the time. So yeah, very brief, but hopefully this kind of captures your interest. So maybe when you're done watching this video, you'll go out and listen to her music and maybe do more research on her. So I guess you can say this video was kind of a primer. So these are the albums that I personally would recommend you check out. But of course, like I said, this is all just my personal opinion. For all the Kate Bush experts out there, you may rank these differently than me, and that's totally fine. We all hear these differently, but this is just how I prefer them. So with that being said, let's get started with the ranking, and let's start with my number 9. Roll his body. This might not be a shock for some people, but for number 9, I am going to go with 50 Words for Snow, which is her latest album that came out in 2011. So this is going to be 12 years. So it's been a long time since she's released something, but overall, this is still a pretty decent album. And that's something I can say about all these albums. There's not one album I truly hate, but there's definitely some stuff I prefer over others. And for me, this is by far my least favorite. So this was kind of another comeback for her, because her last album came out in 2005. And so she decided to come out with this in 2011. The same year she released Director's Cut. So by this point, Kate is not really doing the very bombastic, very out there compositions. On this album, she kind of decides to do a more relaxed, more sparse album. It's all about the atmosphere, taking a lot of influence from jazz, and the whole theme of the album is, like the title suggests, snow or winter, and I feel it does that very well. It really captures the feel of winter and snow in general. And yeah, I mean, she's not really going high or anything. She kind of keeps it pretty steady for the most part. And it's definitely one that you kind of need to be in the right mood for. And for me, it's not really what I want to go for when I want to listen to Kate Bush. So there's 7 songs on here, and they're all pretty long as well. It's a pretty long album. There's one song on here that's over 13 minutes long, and there's some that's 11 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes. So it's definitely one, like I said before, you gotta be in the right mood for it. So I personally wouldn't say this is a good starter, but if you like more jazzier music, then you might enjoy this one. What's notable about this album is that Elton John actually makes a guest appearance on here. He sings on the song "Snowed In at a Wheeler Street." Sorry, let me say that again. "Snowed In at Wheeler Street." There you go. So it's kind of interesting, and I know Stephen Fry actually also makes an appearance on here. He says it. I think he has like a spoken word section in the title track. But yeah, my least favorite, but it's still pretty decent. And if this is the last thing she released, then I guess I wouldn't be too upset, because I think at this point she really doesn't have, I don't think she has anything to prove anymore. She is kind of happy where she is. She just wants to keep making music the way she wants to, and not really care what the masses wants, but only what she would like. And it also kind of plays along because on the first song, "Snowflake," her son actually also makes an appearance. He sings like I said, he sings the first song, and it's kind of interesting. Of course, he was still pretty young at the time. I'm pretty sure he's all grown up now. But still, yeah, very interesting album, but my least favorite. So number 9 is 50 Words for Snow.
Could you see the storm rising? Could you see the guy who was driving?
Coming up next, we have the album that preceded the last one. Here we have Ariel, which came out in 2005. So here is the first comeback album for her, because by this point she hadn't released an album since 1993, and came out with this. And it's kind of similar, like it's structured kind of similar to Hounds of Love, where you have the first half of the album, which is all just standalone songs, but then you have the next half, which is just another conceptual piece. So it's broken down to two halves. You have a Sea of Honey, which is the first half, and the second half is A Sky of Honey. So, but what's different about this one is that this is a double album. So in this case, it's 2 CDs. So it's a long album. So obviously, if you're not a huge fan of very long albums, then this might not be for you. But I think it's still pretty enjoyable. Again, still not quite the level of Kate Bush that I love, but there's still some good moments on here. So we'll start with the first half. So you have King of the Mountain, pretty good opening track. I think that sets the tone of the album pretty well. Then you have Pi, which is exactly how it's what you think it's about. Yes, it's about the math symbol, pi, 3.14 something, And she actually does recite it in the song, which is kind of interesting. Then you have Birdie, which is dedicated to her son, so that's kind of a nice song, kind of sweet. How to Be Invisible is probably my favorite song on here. Has a good mood to it. But yeah, overall first half pretty solid. Then you have the second half, which is called A Sky of Honey, which is the conceptual piece, as I mentioned. And this is it's kind of similar to A Day of Future Past by the Moody Blues, where it kind of chronicalizes a day. In this case, it's supposed to chronicalize like a summer day. So you have birds chirping throughout, and it's kind of a nice little atmospheric type of section. You just got to be another one. You got to be in the right mood for it. And again, that being said, so overall it's still pretty good. I still quite enjoy this one, but obviously there's a lot more to talk about. So, but I think it's worth a listen. Maybe after you've listened to the other albums I'm going to mention, maybe you should give this a try as well. But yeah, that's going to be my number 8, Ariel. This might be a tad controversial with how low this is, but for me, for number 7, I'm going to go with The Sensual World. So this is the follow-up to Hounds of Love. This came out in 1989, and pretty solid follow-up, but I feel my issue with this album is that it doesn't quite have that same impact as Hounds of Love did. It's still very good, but not as immediate. So it starts out with The Sensual World, which is a great song. I mean, definitely a great introduction. Again, sets the tone really well. What's notable about this album is that David Gilmour actually appears on the album. He actually plays a guitar on 2 tracks, which I'll talk more when we get to another particular album. But in that album, he only produced. He co-produced, but here he's actually playing on the album. So that's kind of cool. So he plays on "Love and Anger," which is the second song, and then he also is featured in "Rocket's Tail," which is the second to last song. So pretty cool. The Fog's pretty nice. Heads Were Dancing. Very interesting song, especially lyrically. I'm not going to say much on it, but I'll leave you to investigate for yourself. Deeper Understanding is pretty good. Between a Man and a Woman. And this is what's probably the one song that most people remember on this album is the final song, which is This Woman's Work, which is a beautiful ballad. Definitely one of Kate's best lyrically, and also one of her best vocal performances, period. Just a great emotional track. I suggest you really go check that song out if you have not heard it already. I know it was covered by an R&B singer, Maxwell, which gave the song more publicity in a sense, but the original is just as emotional. And it's kind of interesting because the song is told in the perspective of a man, but of course she's the one singing it, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, overall not much to say really. It's just a solid album. I just like the others a little bit better. So yeah, that's my number 7, The Sensual World.
One more step to the top of the city, where just a couple of pigeons are living.
This album usually ranks a little bit lower for most, but for me, number 6 is going to go to The Red Shoes. So this came out in 1993, and after this would result in a long hiatus until Ariel came out. So this is quite interesting. So at this point, Kate was kind of interested on touring again, because prior to this album she really had not toured since 1979. She did like occasional performances, like one-offs and TV appearances, but never a full tour. So she wanted to make songs that were meant to be played on stage, and sadly that the tour never happened, but you still got the album though. So you got tons of guest stars on this album. You have Gary Brooker from Procol Harum, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck is on here, and I'm pretty sure there's more. Prince is also makes an appearance on here, which is kind of cool. So the main complaint I hear on this album is that it's not really that cohesive. It's all just a bunch of songs just put together, and none of them really connect. But I guess that's kind of why I like it, because you never know what you're gonna get. So you have Rubber Band Girl, which is probably the most rocking song on here. Definitely the most upbeat on here. And so is Love is pretty good. Eat the Music, which is shown by the back cover. You have all this fruit there, but kind of has a more South American flair to it, which is kind of interesting. Moments of Pleasure, which is a ballad, which is another one of her great ballads. Very underrated, I think. Songs of Solomon's pretty interesting. The title track kind of brings in her Irish influence, because I know she really enjoys a lot of Irish music. She grew up listening to Irish folk music. Top of the City is also really good. Love that song. Why Should I Love You is the one with Prince, and I think it works really good. Like, I hear some people don't like that song, but I love it. Like, you hear Prince providing backing vocals, and it definitely sounds like a Prince song, but I think Kate does it pretty well, if I'm not going to be honest. And then it closes out with You're the One, which is a pretty good way to close the album. So yeah, I know this is not many people's favorite, but I kind of enjoy it. I think it's a very fun album, and a lot of good moments on here, and I don't think it should be ignored that much. So yeah, where am I at? Number 6. So yeah, number 6 is The Red Shoes. Coming up, we have her second album, which is Lionheart, which came out in 1978, the same year as her debut. So yeah, so obviously, like I mentioned, this came out the same year as her debut, and that being said, it does feel like the Kick Inside Part 2, because some of the songs were just leftovers from the previous album. But you know, I think it's pretty cool. I quite like this quite a bit, and I do like the album cover. It's kind of nice. You have Kate in the lion outfit. I think that's kind of funny. I like that. And then on the back, you have her looking absolutely insane, but kind of interesting. But yeah, so obviously this was very rushed because the record label really wanted to capitalize on the success of the first album, and I think Kate herself said she was not too happy with the final result on here. But I think there's still some great songs on here. So Symphony in Blue is the opening track, pretty cool. I like it. In Search of Peter Pan and Wow, I think that was pretty much the biggest hit on here. So yeah, I think that's a really good song. So yeah, Wow, that's the name of the song. Let's see, Oh England, My Lionheart, Full House. Everywhere you look, everywhere there's a heart. It's not the sitcom. Then you have Coffee Home Ground, which is another pretty quirky song that she was known for at this point. Like, I kind of like it when she has like one of those quirky songs where kind of taking influence from like theater and stuff like that. That kind of fun. And then you have probably the most rocking song on here, which is Hammer Horror, which is a great closing track, really great, really catchy chorus to it, and yeah, just very strong album. Like, yeah, it's kind of mid tier, but I think it still holds up on its own to an extent. So yeah, not a whole lot to say, but yeah, that's gonna be my number 5, Lionheart. Now, originally I had this album a little bit lower because, if I'm going to be honest, on first listen I didn't quite hear what people were hearing. Many people cite this as one of Kate's best, if not her absolute best. It's still not quite in my top 3, but over the past few months, after giving it multiple listens, I've started to really grow to it. So of course I'm talking about Never Forever. Came out in 1980, so this is her 3rd studio album. And at this point, she was really starting to hang out with Peter Gabriel, and this was during the time where Peter Gabriel was releasing his 3rd studio album. And of course, Kate and Peter became good friends, and Kate took influence from what Peter was doing, and decided to bring some of that influence onto her next album. And this was actually very notable because this is the first album where she is starting to step into the producing seat. She's not doing it. She's not like the sole producer, she's co-producing, but she's definitely having more of a say on what's going on in the production side of her music. And this is kind of a more, like, again, it's kind of another mellow album. There's really not many songs that really like come at you, aside from maybe a few songs, but it really comes down to the overall atmosphere and all the textural stuff she's doing on like the synths and the piano, and it all just comes together and it just sounds very cohesive. So it starts out with Babushka, which is probably the biggest song on here, and that, of course, that's a great song, very memorable, especially if you watch the video. Then you have Blow Away, which is a pretty nice song, which was dedicated to one of the technicians on the last tour she did, where this technician actually died in an accident. And you know, she kind of wanted to make a song to pay tribute to him, so that's kind of sweet. All We Ever Look For, another great song. Love the keyboards on that one, and I love Kate's tone on that song. Just great vocals all around. The Wedding List is probably the most rocking song on the album. Very cool. Instant Kiss, Violin, another rocker here. And Army Dreamers is another great song, kind of an anti-war song, and sounds great. And it closes out with Breathing, and there's other songs on here that I didn't mention but are also pretty good and fit in the overall scope on this album. And also pretty cool album cover, I must say. This is probably one of my favorites of her album covers. Definitely very strange, but still very eye-catching. And on the back you have Kate as bats, which is kind of cool. It's kind of funny. But yeah, definitely a huge grower on me. I just prefer the next three a little bit more, but yeah, this is a good one. I definitely suggest you check this album out. And at number 3, I'm going to go with her debut album, The Kick Inside from 1978. And yes, with this very generic album cover. I mean, the UK cover is just so much better. But regardless, the music is still great though. So for first album, definitely a good way to start off a career with. I mean, right off the bat, you get all the quirkiness, like the very high vocals, and also her low register as well. And also the interesting arrangements throughout. Starts out with Moving, great opening track. Love, beautiful way to start it off. The saxophone song's pretty cool. Strange Phenomenon, Kite, The Man with a Child in His Eyes, which she actually wrote that song when she was 15, if I'm not mistaken. But of course, this album is known for having Wuthering Heights, probably the one for, aside from another song, from another album, which we'll get to shortly. But Wuthering Heights was definitely a big hit for her. Like, I think it went to number 1 in the UK when it first came out. And just another song that really showcases just why Kate is just so memorable. Again, has the trademark high vocals, and also if you watch the videos, has her dancing. Just sums her up very, very well. Then you have Feel It, Oh to Be in Love, which is a great one. Them Heavy People, title track, which is the closing song. Just a really good debut album. Like it's not like, again, it's not like the greatest debut albums of all time. I wouldn't say go that far, but definitely a fun album. Definitely still captures that kind of like at this point she's kind of has that child wonder, if that makes sense, like that innocence in her, and it comes across in not just the music but in her lyrics as well. Just a nice innocent album, because she was still very young at the time, because like I said before, she was only 19 when this came out, so pretty impressive. So yeah, that's gonna be my number 3, The Kick Inside. And here at number 2, we have possibly her most batshit insane album. We have The Dreaming from 1982. This is not a good album to start with Kate Bush, because of just how crazy it gets. Because at this point she is just all in the producing seat. This is the first album where she is the sole producer. She has full control, and boy does she not hold back on this album. She's like, there's just all this crazy arrangements. She's just going all over the place with her vocals. She's going high, she's going low, she's even putting on voices. Like the title track, she kind of has this Australian accent on it, which is kind of interesting, but kind of cool as well. So it's crazy, but dang, that's why I love it, because I loved it right away when I first heard it. I mean, sat in your lap. That's pretty much the perfect way to start the album, because it pretty much sets the tone. Like, if you can get past the first song, you'll probably have a good time with this one. There Goes a Tenor, Pull Out the Pin, another kind of a more very haunting song, another one about war. And here she's just really just like the part when she's just yelling is just absolutely really captures the emotion. And then probably another one of my favorite songs from her, you have Suspended in Gaffa, which has a great imagery to it. Obviously, if you don't know what I mean, if you don't know what that means, and I'm going to try and see if I remember it correctly, but basically what it's supposed to mean, suspended in Gaffa. The word Gaffa is referring to gaffer tape. In other words, electrical tape, if we're going to make it simple. And basically, you're suspended in Gaffa tape, meaning you're stuck. And this can mean you're stuck in life, stuck spiritually, stuck whatever. Just a very cool song. I love it, and really love that one. And I already mentioned the title track. Night of the Swallows, nice. All the Love, Houdini, Get Out of My House, another kind of scary song. But yeah, very cool way to close out the album. So like I said, if you want to get into Kate Bush, I wouldn't say don't start with this one just yet. Like, listen to everything else first, and then come back to this one when you have when you're more familiar with Kate Bush and her voice and her in general. But yeah, I love it. That's kind of why it's very high. So yeah, number 2 is The Dreaming. So now we get into my number 1. So let's get into it right now.
If only could, I'd make a deal with God, and I'd get him to swap our places. Be running up that road, be running up that hill.
And to the shock of literally no one, my number 1 is gonna be Hounds of Love from 1985. Yep, I love this album. I would say it's probably in my, I don't know where it would be, but definitely in my top 100 favorite albums of all time. Just absolutely adore this album. To me, this is a perfect album. Like, nothing wrong with it. It's a 10 out of 10, no question. So I kind of mentioned it earlier when I was talking about Aerials. So this is probably the best example of her having one side being a bunch of standalone songs and then the second half being a conceptual piece. So side 1, which on the CD they call it Hounds of Love. That's the name of the side 1. So of course it starts with Running Up That Hill, which we all know got very popular last year when it appeared on Stranger Things. And of course I knew the song before Stranger Things, but I guess I will say Stranger Things did kind of help reignite my interest in her, and that's kind of when I really started to dive in more into her music, and that's where her music really started to click with me, and I just became obsessed after that. So yeah, I know it's been overplayed a lot recently, but I still love it. It's in one of my top 100 favorite songs of all time. Just the lyrics on it is just absolutely incredible. One of my favorite lyrics by her, just how it's about how men and women should switch roles for a day just so they can find better understanding of one another. Just a very interesting topic here. I just absolutely love it, and I love the synths on it, and of course the tone is just absolutely beautiful. Then it goes into the title track, another kind of a more commercial sounding song, but still very good. The Big Sky, very cool, very nice. That has Mother Stands for Comfort, another slower kind of ominous song, but great. And it has probably my second favorite song on the album, which is Cloud Busting. Just a very cool song. I love the strings on it. Like, the strings on the song is what makes it for me. I just love how it sounds in the mix. And vocally it's not too crazy, but still just perfect for the tone she's going for. So that's side 1, and then you get into side 2, which is known as the Ninth Wave, which is a conceptual piece. Like, all the songs tell a story, and basically the story is, without spoiling too much, it's just basically about this protagonist, survivor of a shipwreck, and now she's just floating alone at sea, and she's trying to stay awake because if she falls asleep she'll end up sinking to her death. And so the whole story is basically kind of a will she, won't she die, and you're starting to see all her life basically flash before her eyes, and it's just an absolutely spectacular piece. Definitely would recommend anybody to listen to it. Just absolutely fantastic. And I will say this is probably the best combination of her experimental side, but also a great mixture with her commercial side, because this is her most commercially successful album. I mean, it goes without saying, but yeah, just a perfect blend of what makes Kate Bush great, and it's all on this album. So that is my number 1 Kate Bush album. But you really can't go wrong with most of these, aside from maybe 50 Words for Snow. Like, a lot of these you can pretty much appreciate them for what they are, because for me, Kate Bush, what I love about her most is that throughout her career she always stayed true to herself. she never like pandered to the record labels. That she never tried to make hits. She just made music that she enjoyed, and I always got the impression that, you know, she definitely wants it to be successful, but she's not like pushy. Like if you love her stuff, then great. If you don't like her, then that's totally fine. And you know, she stayed true to that even today, I think. So yeah, that's my ranking. So let's do a brief recap. So number 1, we got Hounds of Love. Number 2, The Dreaming. Number 3, The Kick Inside. Number 4, Never Forever. Number 5, Lionheart. Number 6, The Red Shoes. Number 7, The Sensual World. Number 8, Ariel. And number 9, 50 Words for Snow. Forgot to do that earlier. So there you have it, folks. After months, I finally did it. So that's my ranking of all 9 of Kate Bush's studio albums. In the comments below, please let me know how you would rank them. Let me know some of your favorite Kate Bush moments, favorite songs, your favorite album. Just very interested to see what you all think. Like, what was your favorite memory of Kate Bush? Because, you know, I'm definitely very interested in it. And hopefully this was worth the wait. Definitely was worth it for me. So yeah, there you have it. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are almost at 1,000 subscribers, so let's see if we can try and get there pretty soon. I got something planned for that, so let's get there so I can let you know what I got planned for it. But thank you one more time, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, and goodbye for now.
Don't you have a problem now? What next? How you're going to follow the success?
Well, you see, people say this to me, and I don't really look at it that way, because it's not a matter of following success. It's things have happened, you've done them in the past, and you see things wrong in them, and you want to go on and you want to do them right. And I think that's all it is, you know. It's just the desire to want to keep doing things better. And I don't really see it as following a great success, because if I did, I'd get really paranoid, and I probably wouldn't be able to do a thing. I'd be so worried about doing something better than that, whereas you're just in the present moment and you're doing what you're doing.